Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and it is the final weekly comic book review of the year, and usually the last Wednesday, the last new comic book day of the year, usually some slim pickings, usually a light week because of the holidays. No, this week is stacked. There's giant stacks of comics out this week for your post-holiday perusal. Anyway, we always start with a pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, 20th Century Men, number 5. This book continues to impress me. It just keeps getting richer. It keeps getting more elaborate. It keeps getting more connected and tight. This book blows me away. It's a book about war. It's a book about politics. It's a book about political machinations that lead to war. It's about the effects of war on society, on people, on nations, on systems. And it's told through a superhero lens. So there are familiar elements. There is an Iron Man type figure. There's a Captain America type figure. There's different things like that, different ideas that are being remixed, recontextualized, and played with by writer Dennis Camp here. And in the midst of all of that, it's set during the 80s in an alternative history during all the stuff with the Soviet Union versus the US in the Cold War and Afghanistan caught into the middle of it. And then it has absolutely beautiful, phenomenally rendered artwork from Stepan Morphin. Absolutely beautiful. This book does not waste a single page. It literally starts on the inside cover. It's so amazing. There are tight moments that need to have violent, brutal impact. There are moments that need to have emotional nuance to it, and it's all provided here by the amazing artwork from Morphin. Then you have Aditya Bidikar, one of the best letterers in the game. This is a pitch-perfect team on a pitch-perfect book. It is challenging. It does require some thinking, and that's one of the things I love the most about this. This is something that I love to sink my teeth into. Read, reread, reread again. Examine it and examine myself and our society. Maybe that's not how some people like to read their comics, and that's okay. But I love comics that make me think, and this is a challenging read that I absolutely adore. 20th Century Men, number 5. And you know I had to get that Spawn cover. Also from Image, we got Plush number 2. We were shorted our Spawn cover on this one. Anyway, written by Doug Wagner with artwork by Hilliard, first name Daniel Hilliard. This book is awesome. It's about cannibal furries. Okay, now that's enough to sell you on this book. The first issue had enough of a setup, enough of a nod to that concept that really wanted me to bring in, because I know that Doug and Daniel, when they are working together, like on plastic, on vinyl, they do things crazy, they do things fun, they do things zany, they do things the Rockin' Robbie way. And issue number 2 of Plush cranks that up like 11 notches, because these notches go to 11, and it is violent, it is ridiculous, it is silly, and it is just downright fun. Plush number 2, amazing. Lovesick number 3. This book makes me uncomfortable. I said that last month. I'll say it again. It makes me uncomfortable in a weird way. It tickles certain fancies I didn't think existed. It's kind of like a Red Room type scenario, but it's a different feel. Red Room's very like schlocky and intentionally like playing around with the medium and the format and doing something interesting there. This is doing something different. It's doing something on a different level, different like resonating. I don't know. I I am fascinated with this book for some reason. Lovesick. It's gross. It's about this woman that kills dudes on live dark webcams, and then there's the group of people that are coming after her now. So it's saying a lot, but at the same time, it's kind of unsettlingly sexy. It's an interesting book. Then we got Creepshow issue number 4. Got that Spawn cover here. This is probably my favorite issue of Creepshow so far. First of all, there is a Danny story in here, and I just love Danny's artwork, and it involves some wrestling stuff. The story's okay, but the artwork was amazing. Then the first story is probably one of my favorite ones, and it's about these kids who come up against some vampires. They decide that they're going to become like the Frog Brothers, and it doesn't work out so well for them. So the Creepshow book has been a little disappointing, but I think this had some of the stronger offerings so far. Then we got Flawed, issue number 4, Spawn cover. Case in point. I like Flawed. I like Flawed a lot. So this is by Chuck Brown and Frenzy on the artwork. I like the artwork. It's dynamic. It's an interesting story. It's not going to change your life. It's not reaching levels that have never been attained before, but it's doing something interesting with a little bit of a superhero lore, but kind of feeling relevant and modern and fresh, and I really liked it. But it also ties into like ancient relics and magic and stuff like that. So I think it's a real fun read, and I'm enjoying it right now. I will continue to do so. Then we got King Spawn here. Issue number 18, I believe. Yes, issue number 18 of King Spawn. This is my favorite Spawn book, and it's ratcheting up the tension yet again. Spawn is really good at the slow burn, has been during the entire existence of Spawn. It's been a slow burn, right? Things slowly develop, but then when they start ramping up, they really start ramping up, and King Spawn has been able to maintain that pace of a little bit of a slow burn, letting things kind of linger and orbit around, and then slowly pulling them in, and then each issue of Spawn, or I should say each issue of King Spawn, has been moving all these pieces into place, so you have endings like this one that really get you excited to come back. If you haven't been reading Spawn in the last 30 years, jump into King Spawn. It's amazing. Plus, you get a David Mack cover here. That's one of the covers of the year right there. On the last new comic book day of the year, David Mack gives us one of the covers of the year. Let's go over to Marvel, where we have Timeless. Issue number 1 is another Timeless one-shot. So this is meant to be a Kang story, teasing some larger Marvel Universe narrative, right? And at the same time, teasing little things that are going to happen in the pages of Marvel Comics throughout. The overall story is interesting. It introduces some new characters, some new concepts, but it's not that it was dull. It was interesting, but it just didn't really work for me. I don't know. Maybe clunky is probably the word I want to use. It just didn't quite have a nice pace for me. It does have some teases about what's to come, but they're very, very vague. But the main core of the story is interesting. There's something called the missing moment. Kang's trying to find it. He's got a villain, a rival now, and he's got a group of heroes, or a group of supposed heroes that are tied into like the Knights of Camelot and all that kind of stuff. So it's interesting enough. And obviously we're building to something, but it's just another one of these one-shots that doesn't really seem to do too much. Then we got Star Wars, The High Republic, The Blade. I picked this up because I thought my favorite vampire hunter might be in this comic, Blade. I'm just kidding. I knew that they wouldn't put Blade in a Star Wars High Republic comic. No, it was issue number 1, written by Charles Soule. I decided to check it out. Interesting. I'm not familiar. I've read the first couple issues of High Republic, but I don't read a lot of Star Wars books. I decided to read this one, and it was all right. It was okay. It didn't really completely grab me in. You know, it has some cool ideas. Star Wars are books that I always loved. Like, I couldn't keep up with things like Star Wars Legacy or Knights of the Old Republic. I couldn't keep up with them issue to issue. But when I read them when they were collected, when Dark Horse was doing them, I really enjoyed those books. So maybe that's something I need to try with Marvel Star Wars books, is just read them in a big chunk. Like maybe go back and revisit the Gillen Darth Vader run, which I really liked. Maybe read some of that. Maybe read, I don't know. What should I do? What's the best Star Wars books out there? Y'all let me know. What should I read in a big chunk just to enjoy? Then we got Muderworld Spider-Man. And just like the Muderworld Avengers before it, this one-shot is actually part 2 of a Muderworld series. They should have called this Muderworld 1 through however many they're going to be. Instead, it's a series of one-shots, banking on the name recognition of Spider-Man. Spider-Man's not in this book. There's some Spider-Man robots in the book, but basically it's like the Hunger Games. It's like Battle Royale, but it's on Muderworld. It's arcade. I think Arcade's one of the lamest villains out there, but I really like this book. It's got a sense of fun. It's got a sense of exhilaration and pace to it that I really like, and I'm liking it. In the first issue, which blew me away, they like set up this whole character and they just, at the very end, they kill this dude, right? And so now we're focusing on another character, but it keeps that momentum, it keeps that vibe, it keeps the thrill and fun. So I like it. Then we got Doctor Strange Fall Sunrise, issue number 2. This was close to a pick of the week contender, but the story's pretty difficult. Now, I know I was talking about 20th Century Man, because I've seen some comments, people are like, oh, I couldn't understand it. I've heard people say that too. But then the people that have reread it, it irons out for them, if that makes sense. That's what's going to happen for me here. Because, man, oh man, it was hard to keep up with what's going on in this book. First of all, the artwork by Tradd Moore is absolutely gorgeous, as usual. It's the best looking Marvel comic, I mean, in a long time. Like, a long time. The artwork, maybe since the last time Tradd Moore did a book, I don't know, but this is even like levels above Silver Surfer Black for me. But anyway, love the artwork in this book. The first one went by real quick. It was more of a visual experience. This one still has that visual experience, but there's a lot of words, a lot of text. There's a lot of ideas. There's a lot of exposition being shown, and it doesn't seem to work so well at times with the images. However, I really enjoyed this book, and I really liked some of those ideas. Crazy concepts, but especially towards, it starts getting kind of muddied with how much information is being thrown at you, just through the text, and then visually, it's this gorgeous treasury-sized edition collection is going to be a must. All right, we got some dark web books. I'm going to present them in the order you're supposed to read them in. I, in fact, wound up reading them in the reverse order. So here you go. First, you read, if you're following everything, you read Amazing Spider-Man 16, a really solid issue continuing the fight between Spider-Man and Chasm. And yes, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I don't like Ben Reilly as a villain. I'm starting to kind of just let go of that and enjoy the flow of the story. Ed McGuinness's artwork is amazing, and it's some of the most energetic McGuinness artwork I have seen in years. This is a lot of energy packed into his pencils. Let me see if I can get a good. There's a lot of energy here, a lot of big boldness. I liked this issue. I thought it was cool. I liked it. I thought it was fun, but it does set up some things that happen in Venom. Number 14, which is a dark web tie-in. It's Al Ewing taking over for this issue. Brian Hitch on the artwork. Brian Hitch's artwork still doing solid stuff, but not doing absolutely the best. But we know that Venom's been taken over by Goblin Queen and Chasm, and he's kind of reverted back to the old school Venom. They sent him after Spider-Man that last issue. And this one, they send him after the X-Men. They're trying to get something that Madeline needs for her plans, right? Because she can't attack Krakoa directly, so they send Venom, which leads into the events of Dark Web X-Men issue number 2. This issue was just all right. The Venom issue's okay. The Venom issue's good. The Spider-Man issue was the best. And this X-Men one was just kind of okay. I thought the first issue of this was decent, but this does kind of follow, like, because of what Venom gets here, we now have other things happening here. There's some interesting ideas, but the execution just didn't quite work for me, and it just kind of felt a little off at times. Then we got Carnage. I'm still reading it. Issue number 8. I'm reading it because I love Carnage. I love Rom V. I trust Rom V. I trust the character of Carnage. It's hard for me to not read a Carnage book. And I like it. I liked this issue, but there was this weird jump. It almost felt like it shifted and changed direction completely. So I'm still maintaining and having the faith. And we know we got this Summer of the Symbiotes thing coming up, so we'll see what I'm maintaining on Carnage and Venom right now. Then we got Moon Knight here with issue number 18. This is a really good kind of satisfying conclusion to a lot of what has been going on since the first issue. I feel like in the second arc, this is the third arc, right? So if you think of them as 6-issue arcs, in the second arc, it kind of lost a little bit of its momentum and pace, right? But it has regained that in these last few issues, and we're bringing back that dynamic feel in the artwork, even though it's not Cappuccino here. That's the dude's name, right? But it is a similar style. The coloring still pops, and like I said, a lot comes to a head here, and it's a rather satisfying conclusion, but it also sets up more to come. So I'm way back on board with Moon Knight. I think it's ironed out its problems. Then we got Strange Academy Finals issue number 3. This is a pretty solid issue to help pay for the damages. They put together this school fair, and of course you can't have a Strange Academy school fair without some kind of crazy magical threat happening, right? So it's nice. This story does feel like it's rushing to a conclusion, that maybe this book should have had a little bit more time, a little bit more room to breathe. That would have been awesome, but I don't know how long this is going for, but I think it's only for a few more issues, and I think it's done. I hope there's going to be more. I love these characters. I love this world that's been built, right? Characters representing different corners of the Marvel Universe, but they're all kids, they're all new, nobody should care, but Scotty Young makes us care, and Humberto Ramos' artwork is fantastic. Then we got Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man issue number 3. I just kind of skim the story nowadays, to be honest with you, because what blows my mind about this book is the amazing artwork from Juan Ferreira. Love his stuff. Big fan of these really interesting compositions, really bold colors, really interesting way to tell the story. But the story itself just kind of gets a little boring and muddied down, but the artwork is the selling point. So at this point, honestly, I'm just kind of skimming through the words, but really letting the imagery soak in. Then we've got Exterminators here with issue number 4. I believe this is the penultimate issue of Exterminators. I'm still having a lot of fun. It's lost a little bit of its luster for me in this issue. It doesn't feel... It feels like... it feels a little bit too proud of itself for what it was doing, which was having a lot of buoyant fun with Dazzler and boom, boom, pop, pop, boom, boom. You know what I'm saying? Jubilee, X-23, really great cast of characters, a wild, zany, fun adventure. This is still a solid issue. Artwork is great, little cheesecake, and I like that. It's just maybe, I don't know, maybe the book is doing exactly what it should be. I'll tell you what, it's an X-Men book that I'm reading and enjoying. And that's a rarity for me these days. Then we got Thunderbolts issue number 5. Sorely disappointed that this is the final issue. I was not expecting that. I don't think this was billed as a miniseries. I guess they canned this pretty early on. It sucks. There's a lot of potential that was set up in these first 5 issues of Thunderbolts, but because it's just abruptly over, it makes those last few issues just kind of seem like out of nowhere. It never found its footing. It never found its place. This was a book that deserved to go on for a while, has some new interesting characters, some interesting concepts. I'm really sad. Shame, Marvel, shame. Let's jump over to DC. And from DC, we have Tales from Earth-6, a celebration of Stan Lee. So about 20 years ago or so, Stan Lee went over and did some DC works for, like, I think the first and only time in his career, right? And they did the Just Imagine Stan Lee creating the DC universe. So there's a series of one-shots, and the idea was, like, what would, if Stan was just given the name Batman, what would he come up with, right? And the thing is, it wasn't very good. Okay, it wasn't very good, but he worked with some amazing artists, like Joe Kubert did the Batman one, John Buscema did the Superman one. There was a plethora of amazing talent on those books, so visually they were cool. I still have all my original issues. I'm thinking about digging them out and diving back into them. Maybe we could do it for DC in the aughts or something like that. But so this returns to that world, which has been incorporated into the DC multiverse, which is actually the DC Infinite multiverse again now. But Earth-6 is the Stan Lee created DC universe. And so what this is just a bunch of short stories focusing in on them. They're all pretty decent. They're okay. But if you don't know anything about these characters, if you don't have a connection to it, I don't think you're going to care about it. You're going to care. It's a $10 comic. It's long. It's decent. But the original stuff was not that good either. So I don't know what I'm saying here. I'm saying if you really want this, check it out. But if you have no clue about this, it's not going to help you too much. Maybe if you just want to be introduced to these characters, I guess. But anyway, do you want me to go back through one by one on like Rockin' Robbie Live or something and go through the Just Imagine Stan Lee stuff? I think that could be fun. Then we got John Stewart, The Emerald Knight, number 1. This is a one-shot comic written by Jeffrey Thorne, kind of like a coda or a final act to his Green Lantern run, which kind of got cut short, didn't come back, and this kind of wraps up some of those ideas. When we last saw John Stewart, he had absorbed the God Storm. He was like, he wasn't quite a god, but he's like a demigod. There's all kinds of crazy high DC concept stuff going on here that Jeffrey Thorne got to play with, but this just kind of feels like it's an abbreviated ending of it. It kind of feels what the movie Serenity was to the Firefly series, where Firefly, if it had gone, like Serenity felt like what should have been 4 years of Firefly, and it kind of feels like that. It feels like a very abbreviated and truncated grand finale. It would have been cool to see this flourished out. Some cool ideas there. Then we got Action Comics 1050, a shit ton of covers. Man, it's ridiculous. However, Action Comics 1050 was actually pretty good. It's supposed to be setting up the new era that's about to arise, and it tries to do things kind of... It does this trick like Adventures of Superman 500. You remember that? Where Superman goes off with Paul Kent to heaven, right? After his death. And then we get these like teases coming up about like Steel and Superboy and Cyborg Superman, the Eradicator, right? We didn't know all that at the time, but we got these teases, right? They do that trick here to set up the new like direction of Superman. So there's a little tease into the Josh Williamson Superman run with Nick Dragotta, and there's a tease into the Adventures of Superman run with John Kent and Val Zod, and then there's a tease into the Action Comics stuff. I really liked this issue. I thought it was cool. It's another final battle between Luthor and Superman, but something happens in this issue to remove or to retain the secret identity nature of Superman, which has been lost. Everybody knows Clark Kent's Superman. That's now been one more day, basically. This was pretty cool. What I liked about it the most was the last bit of it, what Nick Dragotta did with the artwork, and I'm really excited to see him on Superman. That's going to be awesome. So then we got Action Comics 1067, another solid issue of Action Comics by Rom V. You got Ivan Reis on the artwork, and it's a... I'm not going to say like a scratchier style or something like that, but it kind of is. But there's something about with the way of the narrative, the way of the pacing and structure in the Rom V book, and the color approaches here. Plus, you got Mr. Freeze. You got Rom V writing Mr. Freeze. This is awesome, and it's a different kind of approach that we see from Ivan Reis. But I'm liking this book. It is a slow burn. There's lots of things going on. This is kind of like an opera or something like that, or like a composition, a musical composition. There's all these different pieces that keep repeating and overlapping and this and that, and it's way deeper, I think, structurally than most people realize. Detective Comics, really solid book. Then we got Blue Beetle Graduation Day, issue number 2. I remember being less than impressed with issue number 1, so I almost didn't come back for issue number 2. Shame on me. I'm glad I actually didn't. So I guess not shame on me. I'm good for me. Anyway, number 2 was awesome. The artwork had a very frantic and kinetic quality to it that I absolutely adored. The story started being more focused in on Jaime, who he is as a character. I got involved in it. I got interested in his plight and his story. It just seemed like it grounded it, but also moved the thrilling excitement of it up 11 notches, because these go to 11. Then we got Batman Beyond the White Knight, issue number 7, right? The penultimate issue of Batman Beyond the White Knight. Love this book so much. So much, dude. So, like, Sean Gordon Murphy is an absolute splendid draftsman and artist, in my opinion. I'll read anything he does, and he's becoming so solid of a writer. This is just pitch perfect paced. If this was an action film, we would be at the edge of our seats at these moments here, right? It doesn't lose that pace. It knows when to slow down and when to ramp up, and this is a little bit of a slowdown and a ramp up, and I cannot wait to see what's happening. In fact, I never made it through all the Batman Beyond stuff. I love the Return of the Joker movie. I've only seen bits and pieces of the first season. This makes me want to go and dedicate some time and learning more about the world of Batman Beyond, because I love this interpretation of it. I love it. Absolutely. Then we got Sergeant Rock versus the Army of the Dead, issue number 4, I believe. Yes, issue number 4. Man, Bruce Campbell knows how to write a comic. Easy breezy, very quick read, but the artwork by Eduardo Rizzo is absolutely amazing. It is Nazi zombies versus Sergeant Rock and the Easy Company. That is all it's trying to do. That's all it's trying to be. It's not trying to make a profound statement on war. It's not trying to make any kind of dramatic character studies or anything like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It is just Sergeant Rock and Easy Company killing Nazi zombies. And it's fun, and it's dark, and I love the juxtaposition. You don't usually see Rizzo's artwork on a book so not taking itself seriously, and I absolutely loved it. Then we got Sandman Universe, Dead Boy Detectives, issue number 1 from Pornsack Picciott, Jeff Stokely. This was pretty solid. It was all right. The Dead Boy Detectives have never been my favorite elements of the Sandman mythology. I love the original issue where they were introduced, but every time they've gone back, even Ed Brubaker did it once, they go back and, I don't know, I just don't connect with it for some reason, but the ideas of this story where you have all these Thai-oriented ghosts appearing in LA, and they shouldn't do that. And they had me straight from the get-go in the very beginning, because they do this like Thailand ghost. There's a movie I haven't seen the movie. I think it's a Thai movie. I'm not sure. If somebody help me in the comments. They were talking about it on In Search of Darkness Part 3. And it's about this woman who's a spirit, and at night her head leaves her body and all of her organs are dangling there, and she just flies and like kills people with her organs dangling. And they start the book off with that. And it made me think of that. So if you remember what movie that is, let me know, because I gotta get a hold of that. I gotta watch that movie. That looks ridiculous. Anyway, Dead Boy Detectives, it's alright. Some cool concepts, but the Dead Boy Detectives just don't usually ring for me, right? Then we got the Nice House on the Lake, issue number 12. This is the final issue of Nice House on the Lake, and it's a solid enough ending. It's a solid enough ending. The book I've become detached from this book, which was one of my favorite books last year. The first half of this book was so solid, but then it hit so many delays, and there are so many characters and things going on here, and as much as I love Alvaro Martinez Bueno's artwork here, which is phenomenal, it's hard when the book is running so late and coming out so infrequently to retain who is who, where what is, and what's going on. So I think this is going to make a really solid read, all reading it together. I think it will have much more of an emotional punch all together. I feel like I was detached from this ending. I enjoyed the ending. It seemed like a satisfying ending, but at the same time, it leaves things open for a return, and I don't know how I feel about that. Then we got Wonder Woman Historia, Book 3. This is the final one, the Amazons. I liked it again. This time we got Nicola Scott on the artwork. Some of the best artwork of her career. Holy frickin' cow. I mean, it is gorgeous, but the final confrontation, they've been really taking time building up this history for the Amazons, tying it into mythology, doing some interesting things with the different gods and goddesses, and this is a very satisfying conclusion of what could have been disconnected stories. It is one story being told. This is the satisfying conclusion for me, filled with tragedy and pain, but ending with the tinge of hope. It leads right up to the birth of Diana, how that ties into everything. I really like this. I haven't been collecting this, but all 3 issues of this have been solid. The artwork has been amazing. They are dense reads, but they don't take forever. Kelly Sue DeConnick has a great flow to her dialogue. When they put this out in hardcover, I think that's an evergreen project. I think I'm going to have to get that. Let's jump over to Boom, where we got the Book of Slaughter. So this is a $10 Something is Killing the Children special. And what it is I don't know if it's introducing a new character, but it's introducing a new role for either a new character or a character that barely showed up that I don't remember. So that's what this is. So I know that they're expecting a lot of hype on that probably. And then in the middle of it, this character goes and like has to read the Book of Slaughter. And then a big chunk in the middle of this is just the Book of Slaughter. So it's just telling you like who the White Masks are, how they train, what the different factions are, what the council is, what the different masks look like, who the dragon is, where the congregations are. It's all that. And then it ends with that character again. So it's got a framing device, and the big chunk in the middle of it is just info for the world. So if you want to know more about that stuff, go for it. If you want to get this new character is definitely going to have something to do with what's coming up in the books. Check that out. But man, you making people pay $10 and like half this book is just like information we already had, but just conveniently placed in one location. I don't know how I feel about that. But then we got, from Boom and IDW, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Volume 2. Had so much fun with this one. I love that it doesn't start with something to have to get the Turtles and the Rangers to hang out again. They're just hanging out because they're friends, they're homies. They live across the country, Angel Grove, California, New York. But they visit each other, they hang out. So in the midst of this, there's a new threat is involving Casey Jones. I love it. Dan Mora on the artwork, doing some Turtles, doing some Rocksteady, doing some Goldar, doing some Rat King right there. Awesome. And yes, totally a reference to X-Men #1, right? Those Jim Lee pages where like Wolverine and Gambit and Psylocke are going through the sewers. That's totally what this is. Anyway, Dan Mora artwork is great. The story is great. The voices of the characters ring true. I'm on board for another one. Just when you thought you were out, they pull you back in. Also from Boom, we have Once Upon a Time at the End of the World, issue number 2, from Jason Aaron, with artwork by Alexandre Temfintke and Lee Lowridge on the coloring. I loved this book. I thought issue number 1 was one of Jason Aaron's best #1s he's written since like Southern Bastards. And issue number 2 is one of the best number 2s I think he has ever written. Seriously, this was really freaking good. It's post-apocalyptic. We're at the end of the world. There's this young woman. There's this young boy. They're both alone. The young boy is not a survivor. She is. He's now tagging along with her, and she doesn't want him to. He wants to. He's kind of crushing on her, but he's kind of smart. He knows how to like just build a television set out of nothing. Like he's crazy genius or something. Anyway, we're building the world, we're building these characters, we're building their relationship, their dynamic with each other, and we're also setting up what's to come. Brilliantly paced, perfectly rendered, a really solid book from Boom. Absolutely. Damn Them All is also here from Boom. Issue number 3. Yes, issue number 3. Cy Spurrier was doing a great job on the Hellblazer Constantine book. Look at me, now I'm saying Constantine. But Damn Them All's kind of like his ideas, I'm sure. If he could go full board into Hellblazer Constantine territory, he would definitely be doing some of this stuff. Using real stuff from like the Key of Solomon, real ideas and concepts. Basically, someone has basically made it basically. Let's get that out of the system. Somebody has made it easy to conjure demons up into the form of just a talisman, and you can basically use them as a magic genie or something like that. It's throwing the magic world out of balance. So let's just say that John Constantine, basically, she's having to try to figure this out. We're getting introduced to larger, darker corners of this world. I'm having a lot of fun with it. It's got a lot of text. It is a little bit of a clunk at times to read because the artwork's not the most dynamic, but at times it does work for what they're trying to do. I really like that book. I like it a lot. From Scout Comics, we have Category 0, Conflict. I almost said Conflicted. Conflict, issue number 1. This is from Adam Camel and Ton Lima. Now, Category 0 was a book that's already come out. We covered it here back in a few years ago, and it was promised to return, and now it's returned. And I'll tell you this, Adam's writing has gotten better, right? And I liked Category 0, but this one had a brisker pace to it. It was easier to get into, even though it had been a while since I had been in the world of Category 0. And it's basically like there's this disease that comes out. It turns certain people into superhumans, and the government's trying to round them up. So it's kind of got this X-Men kind of vibe to it. There's a little bit of Rising Stars and Resistance thrown in there, right? But it's doing its own thing. But it's been so long since I was in that world, I was nervous that I wouldn't really get into this book. But when I read it, I got right into it because the flow of the story, the artwork, I'm pretty sure this is the same artist too. The artwork is better than what I remember. I'm not saying that it was bad before. I'm saying it's tighter. It's more refined in story, in its structure, in its dialogue, in its pacing. I really liked it, thought it was cool. I was finding it difficult to remember who was what, but by the time I got to the end of it, I was fully on board with the pace of the book, and then I noticed that they do this nice recap at the end, so that's pretty cool. So if you haven't read Category 0, I would recommend it. The trade paperback's out, so it's kind of essential to really get into this, but you could also just read this, try to pick up that flow and vibe. You may be a little bit confused, but all that information in the back will help iron that out. So Category 0, Conflict, an improvement on the original series. Then we've got Pink Lemonade, issue number 4. This is one of the sleeper hits of the year for me. I absolutely love Pink Lemonade. It's got the zany, brazenly fun and vibrant vibe of something like Madman, and it's got that quirky nature as well, but it carves out its own identity. The character Pink Lemonade is probably my new favorite character in a long time. I love the artwork in it. It is pop art. It is got different things that it's doing, so at times it goes into like a more like a sketchy, penciled kind of look. At times, sometimes a painterly look. All in all, great composition, great use of colors, great sense of just zany fun. This has been absolutely splendid. If you're a fan of the Allred's work, especially when they do their own thing, like Atomics or Madman, this book is for you. That's really good. Then we got Bloodshot Unleashed, issue number 4. This is the last issue for now. Hopefully, we can get Dennis Camp back and John Davis Hunt, even though John Davis Hunt's not on this issue. Instead, we have... we have Eric Zawatsky, and the artwork is really, really solid, and it does some interesting things with the composition of the page based on the structure of the narrative contained within. Two different stories kind of being told, but they all kind of relate to each other. Dennis Camp is just absolutely amazing. This is a violent, brutal book, but it's also brutally honest about the relationship between brothers and friends and soldiers even. And like some really interesting stuff being done on here. This was another one of the best comics of the week. Dennis Camp is able to have these layered explorations in his work, but still just deliver a nice one-shot action story that's got an emotional punch, it's got a dramatic theme to it, and it's just got some brutal, violent mayhem and solid art to boot. Then that's Bloodshot Unleashed. And then we've got Door to Door, Night by Night, issue number 2 from Vault Comics, Cullen Bunn, Sally Cantorino. I really did like issue number 1. I liked issue number 2 even better. It's about these people who their job is to go door to door selling coupons for a photo from like a photo studio to help support the Firemen's Association or something like that. And they, in the last issue, have been awakened to the idea that demons exist, and they had to band together and fight one. And now in this one, there's other creatures that they have to deal with. So I like it. I like the character work that's being done here. It's done subtly, and that's really nice. Cullen Bunn is a good writer. It's usually like concept and plot movement forward first, and the character work is there, but there's some really nice subtle moments in this story that just shed a little bit of light on some of these characters and inform their actions to the reader. So I thought that was really good. So overall, final new comic book day of the year. Really solid one. Door to Door, Night by Night. I liked it better than issue number 1. Bloodshot Unleashed. Can we get more Dennis Camp on Bloodshot, please? Then Pink Lemonade, zany, fun. Category 0, Conflict. An improvement on the first series, which was already solid. Damn Them All. Really cool stuff, though a little bit choresome to get into sometimes. Once Upon a Time at the End of the World. Best book from Jason Aaron in a long time. Power Rangers Turtles 2. Come on. Book of Slaughter. That's a cash grab. That's what that is. Wonder Woman, Historia, the Amazons. Really solid final issue. That makes that a perennial classic. Nice House on the Lake. Gonna have to read it all together, but I feel a little detached from the ending. Dead Boy Detective, some cool concepts, but I couldn't get into the characters. Sergeant Rock vs. the Army of the Dead. This book is awesome. Batman, Beyond the White Knight, makes me want to watch Batman Beyond. Blue Beetle, improved over issue number 1, pulled me back in. Detective Comics, some great building and structure work done by Ron V. Action Comics, a decent enough conclusion of what's been going on, but a setup for what's to come, and I'm really excited about that Nick Dragata artwork. John Stewart, Emerald Knight, a too abbreviated conclusion to Jeff Thorne's Green Lantern work. Tales from Earth 6, I don't know who they think's going to buy that. The Thunderbolts, shame that book is over so soon. Exterminators, not as fun, but still fun. Then we got Deadly Neighborhood Spider-Man, amazing artwork in that one. Strange Academy Finals, feels like we need to take more time with that book. Moon Knight is way back on track. Carnage, I'm sticking it through. Then we got Dark Web X-Men, it's okay. Then we got Venom, and it was alright. And then we got Amazing Spider-Man, and I really liked that one. Doctor Strange Fall of Sunrise, confusing, but dope visual experience, absolutely. Muderworld Spider-Man, lots of fun there. Star Wars, The High Republic, The Blade. I was disappointed that Wesley Snipes wasn't in that one. Then we got Timeless, and it was alright. Then we got King Spawn, that was awesome. Cover of the week, cover of the year almost, man. Flawed, having fun with that book. Creepshow, it's alright, but that was the best issue so far. Lovesick, I'm sick with love for that book. And then we got Plush, which was absolutely wild and ridiculous, but 20th Century Man continues to bring it all. Amazing writing, incredible artwork, phenomenal lettering, all in one tight package. 20th Century Man, the pick of the week. What are you reading? What are you digging? Let us know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for checking out the video. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for checking out. Is this real? Am I on a loop? Be sure to like, share, subscribe, all that jazz and more. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop, boom.